Hey, everybody. Welcome to this month's Wine Writers Wrap Up. And we kind of changed the topic this month. It was supposed to be our wine's most embarrassing moments. But with the news that kind of came up in the last week or two, we decided I decided we were going to change. And my lovely panel was more than generous in allowing me to change that on them. So before we actually get into the chat, I'm just going to let the panel introduce themselves. So I'm just going to go left to right on my screen. So Jeff, you are up first.
Always starting with me. Hey, everybody, this is Jeff Eccles. I'm with the We Like Drinking podcast that you can catch every Friday, talking about wine, beer, spirits, all kinds of stuff. So check it out at welikedrinking.com or search for We Like Drinking on your favorite podcast catcher app.
All right. And next is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole Ruiz Hudson from the Somm Stable and The Nibbling Gypsy are my two blogs, and I write a few other places, but coming to you today from Oakland, California.
Thank you. And Michael?
Michael Kelly. I have a website, California Wines and Wineries, and I'm involved with doing various things, including brokering wine and judging wine contests, etc.
Awesome. And lastly, Tina.
Hello, everyone. It's Tina Mori from Wine Studio. It's a beverage education and grassroots marketing program held on Twitter every Tuesday night. And I am from right now heading in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Lovely Virginia Beach.
Awesome. And I am your host, Lori, and my husband and I own Dracena Wines, a boutique winery in Paso Robles that we specialize in Cabernet Franc. And tonight, I couldn't pass up all of the news that was hitting the wine world this past couple of weeks. And we are talking about the Somm scandal. And in this situation, the Masters of Sommelier class, there was this huge scandal. Cheating occurred. So we're going to just talk about our thoughts about this and what we think happened. And we'll go from wherever it takes, go from there, wherever it takes us. So my first question, actually, before we get into that, is really important. What is everybody drinking? So I'll go right to left. Tina.
I am drinking a cocktail of my own creation.
Ooh.
It's a simple syrup of basil and jalapeno and, sugar and water with a little bit of tequila and some tonic water. Nice. So cheers.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm. And next, for some reason, and I can't figure it out technology-wise, Michael and Nicole switch spots.
just to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. So Nicole, you're next.
Well, I had some Amontillado sherry hanging out in the fridge, so I decided to pour myself some of this. So Principe de Barbadillo. Yay. Amontillado.
And Michael.
I'm drinking Governor's Bay Sauv Blanc from New Zealand, 2016.
And Jeff?
I am drinking Sancerre Rouge, the La Savane des Clos. So this is Pinot Noir from the Sancerre region of the Loire Valley of France.
Awesome. And I am drinking my very good friend's Jean Edward Sellers Sauvignon Blanc from Napa. So as I said, I am wishing it was warmer weather already and sticking to some white tonight.
What you don't consider hoodies to be Sauvignon Blanc weather most of the time?
It was, I could deal with hoodies, but 35 degrees, man, it's over. Come on, people,
Too cold.
Way too cold. It's winter weather already. And I say it all the time. I have got the raw end of this deal with my husband, man. I am on the wrong coast all the time. I am in California when it's 105, and I'm in New Jersey when it's below 0. So I got to end this quickly.
Too bad because it's 75 here today.
Oh, torture. All right, so let's get into the little scandal here. there were 23 master sommeliers that were stripped of their diplomas. The first thing that hit me was, oh my God, if that was me, so what do you guys think if it was you? Like, what would you do? How would you feel?
Well, kind of like you, my first thought was, I think it would have broken me because like the way I have not gotten to this level of certification, but even the certification levels that I've done, they're so all consuming that to have spent so many years and blood, sweat, and tears on something like this and then have it stripped from you, I think I would be, it would be hard to bounce back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I honestly think you would go through, what is it, the 7 stages of grief with this thing. I mean, I think, like, I feel I would have launched into fury like immediately, unless I partook in some of the help that was provided, but I'm guessing majority of them did not, and so my blood would be boiling. I mean, I really do think that this is going to be a grief situation for them that they're going to have to work through and I've even heard some of them are like, I'm done. I'm not taking it again. Because it's a lose-lose for them. If they do take it again and they don't pass, then everybody's going to have this, they feel like they're going to have this wandering eye. But I mean, really, I think most of us are like, that test is so hard that there's some current masters that probably couldn't make it out of it if they took it again. So, but I think that would be my first reaction, would be overarching fury.
Yeah.
So do we know the facts? Do we know the facts of what really transpired?
So before you came on, before we were live, I was researching. I was telling them I was researching today, and I did find information that supposedly confirms how it was cheating. And that's a little later. I'll talk about it. Later. But I know that my Irish blood would be, hell hath no fury of an Irish woman scorn, man. I would, and I think that I would say, forget it. I'm done. Because I agree with you, Jeff. You go through all of this and you pass the emotional, roller coaster, you pass, you're like, whatever. And it's not a test that you study a week ahead of time for.
Right.
People have dedicated years of their lives to it. And they can't just say, all right, well, I'll let it go and I'll take it next year. They're still going to have to continue to study for an additional year to take that test again. And I agree. If they don't pass, I think the people are going to say, "Oh, you were the cheater,"
And I don't remember, when do you have the date that the test that they took the exam or they took the tasting?
I don't have the date they took it. No,
I think it was September, like something like that.
No,
I was thinking it was like August or September, and they were most likely practicing their blind tasting, if not daily, weekly, all up until that, and then they stopped once they passed, and so their palate. I mean, they got to, like you said, it's another year of their lives to go try and do this again.
So it was somewhere in later, like the 3rd week of September, because I will bring up what later on. But the individual will reveal his name later. The individual wrote a blog on September 26th that congratulates his people.
There you go.
So I don't know how quickly he wrote that blog.
Right.
It was right around then.
Okay.
So, and it looks like we lost Tina.
I'll say to your point too, like, I mean, people, as we were mentioning, I don't think people realize just how hard this exam is, and you can easily have an off day and be on one day and then the stars just don't align the next time and easily fail. And it's not because you're any less of a taster, it's just you're just having an off day. And then and in addition to all the time that people put in to pass this, the other thing you have to factor in is how much money you spend. on bottles to, like you're saying, you have to be practicing all the time, and you have to be practicing like with pretty quality examples. So the amount of money that is spent in practicing is insane. So you can't really account for that.
Right. Now, one of the things that they had said, which I was going to ask your opinion on, is, so the court has said, we are going to refund your testing fee. We are going to pay or help pay for your transportation to the next test, and we're not going to charge you for the next test. But as you brought up, Nicole, what about all that wine, like all of that wine that they purchased and they worked on, that's nowhere, that's not refundable, plus the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So to that point, I know many of you probably know Christy Norman. She's a sommelier at Spago in Hollywood, and she's got a pretty good following on Instagram. But she has set up she's worked with people to set up a support system, if you will, for the MS candidates that are tasting it again. So I'll put it in the chat here, but it's thankfulregistry.com /support MS candidates. And so you can do a monetary donation here, but they're also, which I think is really cool, they're taking bottle donations as well. And they've even gone so far as to set up donation centers in every city that one of the candidates is in. So if there's a candidate in Austin, they've found somewhere in Austin where if you've got a bottle of Burgundy that you want to donate, that you can go to this location and drop off a bottle for these master somms. So far, Wasserman Imports sent a Burgundy care package in for all of them. Young's, the place that employed the master who leaked it, is doing something. Kendall Jackson has brought up that they're going to be making an influx into this. There's some other big names that are lending a supporting hand as well. So if any of you are listening to this and you're wishing there was something you could do, this is a great thing they've got set up. They've got specific bottles you can donate. They've got monetary. You just go in there, you click it. I even think they have capsules for the wine the Coravin, yeah, the Coravin for the tubes. So really cool thing that Christy set up, and so if you're interested in helping the people out, it's a great way to do it.
Really cool.
And again, that's thankfulregistry.com /MS support or support MS candidates.
And I will put that into the show notes for the podcast also.
Excellent.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic.
I don't think it's as bad. The tasting portion, I think you can take it in another 6 months and still do perfectly fine because you've got tasting memory, as opposed to like the theory, where the theory stuff you lose because it's all memorization. But when you're tasting your palate, you always have a palate memory. Always. That doesn't go away.
I don't know. I feel like I've fallen out of practice with blind tasting. So like if you any of the exams that I've taken, if you were to test me tomorrow, I don't necessarily know do that well on the blind tasting.
When was the last time you studied like they've been studying though? You know what I mean? They study like every day, and they're still gonna study almost every day. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if they're going 6 to 7 months after, I mean, I think at a base level they probably keep a lot of it, but to get to the nuance that you do, especially at the master level, as far down as you have to go to vintage and location and everything else, I think that's a muscle memory, and like any muscle memory, you lose it if you don't work it out.
Right. Now, they did say that they were researching in order to do a non-scheduled tasting later in 2018. So there's not too much of 2018 left. So I mean, that I think would be very nice of them to do. But otherwise, they have to wait till the 2019 testing.
Said, like, I think, honestly, I mean, I understand why the court handled it the way they did, whether, you know, I think it's arguable whether they should have wiped everybody's diploma or not, but I think really they should be allowed at least two chances, because, like I said, you can, I mean, plus, like, I think if you've passed and then you have this, like, taken away from you, I think that trauma would actually potentially influence your tasting ability the next time too. Like, I think it's because it's all a head game too.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking about head game, I think the worst thing that can happen is knowing the wines. Because I'm sorry, that's a total mind fuck if you know the wines going into it, if that's exactly what happened. Because then you're thinking, okay, this wine is this, and this, and it's impossible to do because it's verbal. You can't, there's no time to think. So you have to rely on your process. If you know the wines ahead, you're completely screwed up. What's going on over there?
What's going on in there, Nicole?
I'm so sorry. My my sherry bottle just, like, popped its top for some reason.
I don't know.
So Lori, I'm really interested to hear the information you have on how because that's the thing I think a lot of us are missing is what actually took place. When I first heard about this, I was like, I understand their position to strip everybody away, but if they're, you know, as it's gone on and as I thought about it more, you know, I'm really like, how much of an investigation did they do to this to try to isolate who had this information? Because if it was like one person and they could isolate that one person, then take the appropriate information there. But now if it's some way that there's literally no way they have of knowing, then, you know, I guess I see the point of it, but we really haven't had the information. So if it's something's come out today, I would really be interested to hear it.
So I'll jump ahead and we can backtrack. So what I read today was that a member of the board, and this is, I just copied and pasted from the article, a member of the board, which is the very same governing body that made the decision, sent an email to a few select candidates of the tasting portion of the exam with the subject line "heads up," with releasing the initials of the varietals within the flight. So they did like CF so that the people would know that it's a Cab Franc.
Right. Of all the wines in the flight?
They said 2 of the varietals within the flight. And then further discussion in the article was saying how, you know, there's certain varietals that are extremely confusing, you know, and by getting those initials really helps them.
Mm-hmm.
But so, what happened to the guy that leaked the information? He should be.
Oh, he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
So gone. You know, this brings up to me, honestly, the biggest red flag of all of this. So there are master somms that coach candidates, right? Mm-hmm. That are going to take the test. And this is a huge thing on the Court of Master Sommeliers. How in the world is it okay for a board member that's going to be proctoring this exam to not recuse themselves if they have people that have been training underneath them taking this exam? That should be like no questions asked. If you have people that you've been training, they're going to be sitting in this exam, you cannot give the exam.
He didn't give the exam.
He was there for the tasting.
Board. He was actually there for the tasting?
He was on the board.
Yeah, he proctored. And so, I mean, I totally agree with you that, like, I think if you are, I mean, the court had, like, places a lot of emphasis on like paying it forward and this idea of mentorship. However, I completely agree with you that if you have students that are training with you, you shouldn't be proctoring the exam. I think probably it has to do with the fact that in addition to being a master somm, you have to take additional like a multi-year training, I believe, to become a. So there are probably very few master somms that can do it, but nonetheless, I think that's just a conflict of interest.
It completely is. I mean, it just opens the door for corruption. And so if you in any way know the wines that are being poured, you should not be, I mean, if you have students, you should not know what wines are being poured.
Right. So, and as you said, they do the pay it forward thing, but if you can have, for this testing, you can have a situation where I don't have any mentees, right? And then I can be part of giving the test.
Yeah.
But if I am a mentor to anybody, then I should not be allowed in that board. I should not be allowed to know what is being poured. I agree.
I think Tina disagrees.
Yeah, Tina, you know?
No, not necessarily. I think there's a larger picture here. That's that. What we're talking about right now is such a small part of the entirety. The big thing that people have, the big issue that people have with the court is that it's very exclusive. And they think the members think they're above everybody else, blah, blah, blah. And also it's, sorry, the dog needs to go out. It's more about not so much mentors, but those who are in positions to put newly minted master somms in jobs of influence. That's kind of really the bigger picture that they're talking about, that the problem is. A lot of the importers have master somms there, and it looks good for them, and it looks good for the company that they get as many master somms as possible, and then that's more money for the company. You know, they put a master somm here, a master somm there, so that's the issue. So that's the bigger issue here. What other? I'm trying to think of other certifications in the world or whatever that the same thing can happen. I mean, this has got to happen in other jobs, right? Why are we making such a big deal of this? How do we know this hasn't happened before?
We don't know.
Oh, that's.
I mean, I don't understand why the big deal. I mean, it happens. Shit happens. People are human. You know, it's terrible. I think it's terrible that those 23 had to be caught in the middle of it. I would imagine I wouldn't want to know anything because, like I said, knowing wines is a complete mindfuck. It screws up everything. Knowing that stuff, I wouldn't want to know at all. But I think that the point is too that somebody, one of the classmate, one of the kids, I guess the kids, one of the study guys, persons, whatever, one of the candidates, excuse me, knew, and he blew the whistle. That was one person who did it and who felt bad, and he spoke to a lawyer and this and that. So it's gotten so blown out of proportion. It's ridiculous. And it's just a shame for the candidates who now have to deal with this all over again. And, you know, a lot of them, it's like becoming a doctor or this and that. It's like the same thing. It's horrible, but people do stupid shit all the time. Yeah. You know, I don't understand why it's like, okay, this is not brain surgery. Then nobody's saving lives here. But again.
So that is true. It came to the light of the court by a lawyer's letter.
Right.
So that, and the lawyer's letter stated that the varietals were released, and it is believed that, and this is what I don't get, and this is why I am frustrated with it. And I don't think I agree it's blown up. But I'm more upset for the 22 people because there were 23 who passed. So I'm more upset for the 22 people who are caught in the middle. And that's really where I think the conversation is. This guy, his name was released. It's Reggie Narito Jr.
I know Jerry. Yeah, he was one of my mentors back.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, he's a great guy.
He made a mistake, right? Okay.
Who knows?
I just want to say, though, that it actually doesn't affect just the 23 people that were stripped. It affects everybody that sat that test and passed. So, like, you can pass this exam in parts.
Right.
And more people passed that section this time around. I believe it's in the neighborhood of 50 that now have to retake that portion. So, I'm just saying.
Oh, so those 23 people, were just the people who took it and that was the third portion that they passed?
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Those were the 23 people that actually had completed their
The whole.
the 3 parts, but other people passed that. So like I think somewhere in the vicinity of 50 had passed that portion.
Portion.
The tasting portion? Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was only 24.
24
completed their master somm.
Oh, okay.
And there is one person who did not get his title stripped.
Right.
His name is Morgan. Yeah. He had passed that section previously, so
right.
Yeah.
Right.
50. That's a huge number that passed the tasting portion.
Well, that also rose a red flag.
Yeah.
A sort of record year.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask this question because I have this also. There are only 274 Master Somms since 1969. Yet 24 and actually passed their whole test this year. So I kind of scanned through previous years, and the average of people passing, getting their the master is 6 per year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is huge. The second largest year to this year was in 2011 that 12 people passed. So it is a lot of people. I mean, and this is where I'm like, these poor people, if they were legit, they passed it on their own. It doesn't matter. They have that asterisk. They have that next to their name, But your thoughts?
What's the percentage of people who were like in 2007 or 11 that you mentioned? What was the total number of people who went for their masters and compared to today? I think it's a lot more today. And I think the Somm movies has a lot to do with that. All of a sudden, the Somm world is great again. Way back when, I don't know what year it was, but we were the evil under everyone's shoes. So, when fine dining kind of tanked. So it ebbs and flows. So is it a high amount? Sure. But is it unreasonable? I don't know.
I don't remember what it was proportionally, but that was mentioned to me that proportionally it's not crazy. So it's not, when you look at it as a percentage of the number of people taking it, it wasn't as seemingly out of whack as it seems, but I can't remember the numbers.
That's the problem with stats, is you can kind of say whatever you want it to say.
Taken out of context.
So I didn't see anywhere that said how many people were taking the test. I just saw that, I was doing a count. They just have a list of all of the people and what year they got it. So I was just counting. But I did find that it's a 92% failure rate.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a second. That 92% failure rate for a master sommelier versus, a brain surgeon or so. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me, and I find it very silly. Even though I went through the court system, I just find it really silly. Yeah, that sounds awful, but
I mean, as an educator, if I gave a test and it said, I look at the results of my questions and 92% of my students got that wrong, or 92% of my students failed. First of all, I would have every parent on the face of the earth yelling at me. But beyond that, I would have to say, all right, I think this needs to be looked at. This needs to be. I get that these people who are master somms are the elite of the elite, but I mean, 92% failure rate. That's worse than professional athletes. Like, the number of people going into professional athlete is like 6%, I think. So it's almost like becoming a professional athlete. So I mean, I don't.
But that goes back to the exclusivity, right? That we were talking about. I mean, they're building it with that in mind, right? I mean, they are making sure that the entrance door is very small.
Yeah. I remember taking the introductory exam and I'm like, oh my God, this is a piece of cake. And then I took their certified. I was like, oh shit, this is much harder. What happened? Holy crap. I remember sitting and the wines are in front of me and I'm like, holy crap. So yeah, I can't imagine the advanced and then this, but then again, like Jeff said, that's part of the enigma. That's part of the club, the exclusivity. So.
I actually have less of a problem with, I don't know, with that top tier. What I do find troubling is, or perhaps that I think should be looked at again, is the fact that like nobody releases any information about what went into a score, or like why somebody passed or why somebody didn't.
Yeah.
You never see, you never get to see like what you did wrong or did right.
Right.
And I think that does also raise questions about like, like who, I don't know, like there are gatekeepers here, and what standard are they being held to? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's being held in question now. All of that.
So Tina, you went through it, and I mean, like I said, I didn't go through any of these programs. So when you're taking that tasting portion of it, right? I've seen the show, and they're on it, and they've got somebody sitting there who's judging them, and they're checking off things. How do you know what you're supposed to be like? I guess I have a problem with as a winemaker, and when somebody tastes my wine, in my head, on my palate, I know what this wine tastes like to me. But that doesn't mean, I could be tasting chocolate and you're not. I could be tasting anise and you're not. And that, I guess, that's what I have a problem with watching them check these things off, is your palate is different than the person who's checking things off. So how in these programs, training in these programs, do they counter that?
Sure. So when you said, you taste a wine and I taste a wine, and we can be getting different answers from it, which is subjectivity, right? The subjectivity, especially when you're talking about the master sommelier portion, subjectivity is like that. Seriously, it's that. And that's why they're tasting what I think one guy said he tasted like $7,000 worth of wine in a 6-month period. That's why you're tasting so many wines. You're getting a base of what each variety should taste like. And then each variety from different parts of the world, and then vintages and all that. So you're painting a picture for each variety. And again, that subjectivity is very small.
And and for the purposes of the exam, they keep it extremely classic. So like you're you're operating in a much like narrower margin than the entire world of wine. That said too, I think like a lot of the times, you could have I could say red cherry, and you could say black cherry or raspberry or blackberry, but like there's they're looking for camps of fruit, and then and even a lot of times I think with spice categories, like I could say clover, nutmeg, and you might say cinnamon, but
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day,
so that's acceptable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter which one you go through. If you go through WSET or SWE or through the Somm program, they all have like a tasting sheet that they give you, and you're going to speak to its clarity and if it's star bright, and so they've all has this vocabulary that they are working off, and that's why when you watch like Somm or you listen to them, they're very like mechanical in how they're doing it, because they're just walking through this checklist of all the things that they're looking for. And I don't know, Tina, if you know, but like when you take the second level Somm, the certified Somm, I think there's 8 varieties in white and red that they can pull from. And they're the classic 8. And I don't know if that goes all the way up to the master Somm exam. Is it still the same 8 on white and red?
I think it widens a bit.
I thought it did. So it branches out. So yeah, Lori, there is a bit of a formulation to it, and that's also part of the exclusivity too, right? Is you need to have somebody that's been through the horse race that can kind of train you on, here's the things you're looking for. This is what this is anise. This isn't, blah 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 blah.
And a lot of times, like because we as tasters, people that love wine, we can get very creative with our tasting notes. Here in these exams, you're told a vocabulary that and even within that, there's a little bit of wiggle room. Like you're looking for red fruits versus black fruits. Like maybe the specific one isn't quite as necessary, or like where I was saying with the spices. That's probably leading towards the fact that you recognize there's oak in the wine, as opposed to not, as opposed to like nitpicking which spice in most cases you're tasting. Certain spices, black pepper would be indicative of certain things, but, like in general.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so I have
difficulty it's not as difficult as it sounds when you know the process.
So I have the WSET level 3. Okay.
Yep.
And here's a question. So on the back of this, right, you go to aroma characteristics, and it says, floral, and then there's like 8 things. So if I'm in the testing aspect, I'm only expected to say one of those 8 things if it's there. So like for citrus fruit, it says grapefruit, lemon, lime, juice or zest, orange peel, lemon peel.
Well, again, I don't know how they do the points. Nobody knows
right.
How they, right? So for anything, they don't reveal that. But for the most part, yes, it's fairly straightforward. You're looking for particular markers for each variety from each particular region that the wine is from. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I think
the WSET goes into things a heck of a lot more than the court does. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Right, Nicole? Yeah, if I remember, but yeah.
But I mean, yes, but they will, they still they're operating in the same universe.
Yeah.
All right. So I just because I have this sheet. They gave it to us at the Wine Bloggers Conference 2 years ago, I guess now. And I just was always curious, because sometimes I'm tasting things that are not on this sheet, and I'm like, well, why are they only listing these things? But so if I was going through the program, I'm basically just looking for these things.
Or you're kind of trained to give those descriptors. Whatever else you might be tasting, you
keep it to yourself. Don't even go there. Trust me. Don't bring yourself to a world of hurt. Trust me.
Yeah.
and that goes back all to the vocabulary. It's the way to communicate back and forth about what you're tasting. So
it's to keep it all on an even playing field for the most part. Yeah.
Okay.
So all those esoteric terms that a lot of wine writers and whatever they're like, what? Okay, yeah, but.
All right. All right. That's a, I sit there and, when I do the notes, I'm like, all right, so it's a green apple. And yet I've been around people who can tell me I don't even know other green apple. This green apple from this state and this, whatever. We don't need to do that if you're taking this class, if you're going through this program.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a lot better.
They only have 25 minutes for wines, I think. So you gotta cut it.
Yeah, I think is it 25 minutes for the.
It's all verbal. It's all verbal too. You gotta talk it. Even the theory is verbal too. There's nothing written.
Oh, really?
Can you imagine? And then the service, you get a new asshole ripped. When you really do,
it's so hard.
It's so, oh my God. Yeah.
There was a show. I don't think that it's on anymore, but there was a show called Uncorked. Right, and I was watching that, and I don't know any of their names because I really didn't. I watched it, but I didn't really get into this one poor guy. Man, exactly. He got ripped a new one every single time he poured. Like he was pouring wine, and I actually before this I never even paid attention. If you're a Somm, you're supposed to pour equal to everybody around and be able to get a full bottle poured out. I'm like, really? And he got ripped because he gave like this much more to one guy than he can to the other. I'm like, oh, come on. As a customer, I would never even like notice that.
And this is, this I think is open. This is an ongoing debate right now, like whether you really need that level of service for most occasions, but like they're operating on what they assume is going to be the highest level of service.
Right.
Sure.
Like we were discussing before, I decided to switch because I never intended to work in that realm.
I really like the service portion. Because it really prepares you to deal with the public. It's just especially one-on-one, and just because people can be difficult, or
I thought the service portion at the certified level was was great to have as a background. Like also like the proper training of opening a sparkling bottle of wine. Because I think there's a lot of safety that goes into that a lot of people take for granted when uncorking something sparkling. So like I was really happy to have that level of training. Yeah. But beyond that, I don't.
For you, right?
I think they're just instilling confidence. I really do. A lot of that you don't need, but you never know. So it's better to have it under your belt than not, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. So on the show, they they are showing the table, and I don't know if the people were wine famous people or whatever at the table, or or if they were other master somms or whatever. But they were showing training. It was I guess a sample test or a practice test, and they were at the table like, all right, we're gonna make sure this occurs, and we're gonna so they purposely were being asses.
Oh, absolutely.
To, I think, like you were saying, Tina, so that you have it under your belt and you realize, well, if I can handle these people, I can handle these people. But yeah, he got ripped apart, for things that I don't think whatever. And I know I wouldn't be good at that because again, if I'm that's why I've probably never been a waitress or whatever, because I just would never put up with that, and I'd be fired on day one for telling a customer off.
Something I think every single person should go through, though. Everybody should serve food at some point in their life.
I mean, talk about humility, though. I don't know. Everybody says that Somms they're conceited and this and that. And granted, some are, but think about think about what you just said and what you had to go through and just the, I mean, you were just beaten down, but there's a humility aspect to it. I don't know. There's a humbleness to it too.
I totally agree. No, and I know like, quite a few songs that are really wonderful, humble people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think that's the case of a few bad seeds spoil. You know, there are some Somms who are, snooty and nose up in the air, but I think that they are completely outnumbered by people who are, Somms who are down to earth and are there for the passion. They're there for the love.
But that's I mean, let's be honest, that's throughout the wine world, right? I mean,
throughout the world.
Yeah, I mean, we run into it all the time with wine people, and honestly with craft beer people as well. But there's people out there that are snooty about it. I mean, there isn't the term wine snob for nothing. I mean, they're out there. So I mean, it's not something that's exclusive just to a few sommeliers. I mean, there's wine writers, there's people that have they're not in the industry at all, and they look down on anybody that's drinking white Zin or whatever, I mean,
putting ice in there. Yeah.
Putting ice. Yeah.
Yes. So just as a little sidebar, the salary of a just basic, not to use the word basic, Somm is $87,000 a year. What do you think the average for a master Somm is?
It doubles, doesn't it?
It's almost doubled, yeah, or at least doubled.
It is. It's doubled. $164,000 a year to be a master Somm. So that studying does kind of. I mean, I've got 2 master's degrees and I'm not making. I mean, that's a lot of money. And I guess at that level, I mean, Tina, you probably know the best. Like, what? I mean, do you think that's, are they parallel for what they're getting for what they're paying? The company that's paying them?
At the master's Somm level, and having known quite a few, and I'm sure Nicole can speak to this as well, but they work incredible hours. They're like doctor hours, even worse. You're on your feet, how many hours a day? 14, 15 hours a day. It's insanity, depending upon the job, right? It all depends. I mean, if you can get a sweet gig like at an importer or like Young's Market Company or something like that, that's a sweet gig. But if you're still on the restaurant floor, that's rough. It's rough work. It really is. Does it command $160,000, $180,000? Hell if I know. I don't know. I don't make that. I don't know. And I don't care to know because that's. I don't know.
Nicole, your thoughts?
I mean, I think a lot of people, I came to wine a little later, so I never worked in a fine dining, in the fine dining arena. I work at a shop/bar now, and even the very short hours I work at a very, comparatively extremely chill subject, because you still, you're still on your feet. And that's taxing. So I can only imagine what it's like in an actual restaurant where you're carrying trays and bussing and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if it's worth as much, like Tina, I don't know what I think it commands. I think it's extremely taxing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the market bears what the market bears, right? I mean,
Exactly.
And as at the master level, really, I mean, if you're talking about a master sommelier, I don't know how many of them actually still work the floor. I think a lot of them are in higher level management, positions where they're making decisions, they're making executive kind of decisions and working at an executive type level in whatever they're doing. So, I mean, if that's what people are willing to pay, then then yes, it's an appropriate amount. I mean,
so here's my question, and then really what I guess I didn't ask my question well enough. So you guys all know me. I don't eat. I mean, my dinner tonight was a lean pocket, and I was very happy with that. So I am not a person who goes to a restaurant and is expecting a Master Somm service, because although I would love the wine that they're serving me, there is going to be absolutely nothing that's on that menu for me to eat. You know, my brother just called me up. We're going to Vegas next week, and he's like, "We're going to this restaurant. Please check the menu to see if there's absolutely anything on here that you can eat." And I checked the menu, and no, there's not. You know, it's like, well, I'll have the salad, but I won't have that dressing, whatever. And so I'm not expecting that. So I'm not familiar with a Somm coming to the table and doing a job, you know, doing something like that. But what I was trying to get at was, if, as Jeff was saying, if that's what the market is, then that's what the market is. But my question is, if they're paying a Somm $167,000, what is the company who's paying them return on investment? Like, I guess that's where I was going. Like, if the company pay $167,000, they must be making $300,000 off of this person's abilities.
Well, and let's be honest, there's been, what'd you say, 274 since 1969?
Right.
Okay, so you're talking about, that company gets to say, we have 5 master sommeliers working for our company. Look at how good our company must be, right? So there's an immediate return on investment just by having that title. And we could get into a whole nother discussion about, you know, the validity of that piece of it. But just having that person with that title working for your company is already giving you a return, right? You know, it's like saying, hey, we have LeBron James as a spokesperson for our company, right? Just having that, we have Tim Geyser, we have this master sommelier that works for our company on there, automatically is giving you a return on investment. So yeah, I think for those companies, it definitely is going to pay off.
Well, I've got two quick points here because we're getting close to time. I used to go to a lot of 3-star Michelin restaurants around the world, and I was in London once, and the sommelier didn't understand what I was really trying to get to, so they brought in the master sommelier. We started having a discussion, and he flips the book open and gives me 2. Says, these are the 2 I would recommend based upon what you described to me. And one was like $18,000 for the bottle, and the other was $24,000 for the bottle. And I looked at him, I said, I think we have a misunderstanding. And he says, what? You know, he was French, but it was in London. And he goes, well, monsieur, why is that? I said, well, I didn't want to become a part owner. I just wanted a nice bottle of wine. and so I don't think the Master Somm, whether he was arrogant, not arrogant, really wasn't the question. The question is, was he trying to take care of the customer, me, or was he trying to inflate the bill for the restaurant? You know, and I felt it was the latter, not the former. So I was not too impressed on that particular Master Somm, and I've had other Master Somms over the years. But I just thought that was an interesting conversation.
I think a whole nother question about, like, you know, that I think should be brought up in these cases as well is, what is good service? And I think in that case, that wasn't good service.
No.
I
mean, that should be a basic question, right? I mean, what are you looking to spend is not an unfair question to ask.
Right. You know, so we settled for some measly $900 bottle of wine that evening. You know, so that was okay. But, you know, I think he was like mortified that I stooped that low. You know? But the other question I wanted to just kind of throw out there is the other 20, and again, I don't know how the process is, but to me, the other 22 who didn't come forward, who were tipped off, and this is what that we're not, because 23 people got the information. No? How many people?
4 or 5.
Okay, so But why? So my question is, those 4 or 5, what does that say about their ethical morality stance?
Right.
Even if they go back and pass it the next time.
Well, that's the question. Should they be allowed to take the test again if it's been proven? And this goes back to Tina, what you were saying about, is there actually any proof of who physically actually got it and who didn't? There's no true proof as of now. If it's proven that Joe got the things, should he be allowed to take it? Because the person who leaked it is no longer associated. If you've accepted it, should you be allowed a second chance?
You know, and I'll kind of go back to what Tina said early on, and you know, we had a bit of a discussion on this on our show, and what Jeff kind of talked. Oh, I guess that was the after party, so never mind. But you know, when you're talking about if I go in here and I nail these 8 wines, I'm going to double my salary. That's a really big incentive that if somebody sends you an email that has some little codes in it, how do you, I mean, that's tough. I mean, it's tough. If it's become so big that becoming a master sommelier is worth that much, I don't know how you can expect some people don't take advantage of a situation that's provided to them.
Or even like another perspective, perhaps, like if, let's say, you didn't ask for the information and it shows up, and let's say
you open an email,
right? You know, I think there's I've thought about this a little bit as well. It's like, you know, well, the person that turned everybody in, I understand completely, like, feeling guilty. They also took down all these other people with them. And I could absolutely see not wanting to do that to your peers. And like, so I don't know, I think it's easy to point fingers, but I think you could look at it from multiple different facets.
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of think to yourself, there's an email in your inbox that's worth, say, $500,000. Do you click on it?
Right. Well, here's the thing. According to the letter, the subject matter was heads up.
Mm-hmm.
How many people would not, from somebody that you know, right? So we're not talking some mystery, email, who wouldn't click to open that email? And then no matter what your reasoning, whatever, you now see it. You can't take away what you see.
But frankly, I think the only known here is how the court responded. And frankly, I think their response was indicative of what they've become.
Okay.
And their exclusivity. I think that they should not have stripped them of their titles. I think they probably should have reprimanded, if it was Reggie or not or whatever. They maybe should have figured out how this can't happen the next time, so this doesn't happen again, blah, blah. But their response, I thought, was blatantly wrong. Because they had the upper hand on everything, and I think they chose to handle it poorly. I really do.
All right. So
yeah, return on investment. That's a great question. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. I think it depends upon the person, each person. I really do. Because somebody can be a master somm but not really do much with it, or you can do a lot with it. Right. So which is and it depends on the restaurant. What do they want? Right. Yeah, that's subjective, I think.
And to Jeff, I think there's, some people are in it to get the money, and some people are in it because, hey, I did this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And the things I mean, it's a different level, but I think that for me personally, and I tell my kids this all the time, if you cheated, you didn't achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have that trophy, but in your brain, you don't deserve it. And for me, I don't want a trophy that I didn't deserve.
Mm-hmm.
That's, that's our society. If everybody gets a trophy, I want a trophy that I win.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
And I think, I don't know, well, maybe there is a culture, I don't know. In general, I've kind of heard people acting more honestly within the court. But, if this is something that was going on, I suppose I can understand more. But it seems to me that this was, this was not worth sharing the info, from the point of view of the Master Somm that shared the information. I just don't see how, how it makes sense, how any of it was worth it to put your entire livelihood in jeopardy.
And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier of he had the individual had an emotional investment in these folks, right? And so potentially made a mistake that he's like, why did I do that? So.
And on a paper trail, sorry. And with a paper trail.
I just
yeah, that's silly, right? So was that cheating? Is it? What's cheating? Is that, I don't know. Is that within the purview that he can do that? That they can do that? I don't know. Who knows? Do they know?
Obviously not, right? If they stripped him of his title, obviously it's not within the realm.
Well, they stripped him, because this came out, because there's a lawyer involved in this and that. It begs the question, if that didn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And who's to say that this hasn't happened in the past? There's no way anybody can say that, right? And
all that we know is that it was found out this time.
Yeah. Hand in the cookie jar with a camera, right?
But that will be my my last question is what so this could be this whole thing is out of control. What is the supposed person, right? Why? What does he get out of it? What's people don't do things unless there's a something to grab at the end of it.
Well, it could have been that he needed to get more folks for his company. That looks better for them, for Youngs, if they have a certain amount of Master Somms. And he could say, oh, yeah, I mentored these particular 4 or 5, whatever, and that could be more money for him.
Now, those course, or theoretically, then those Somms have a, have a debt to pay in a way.
Exactly. Yep. No, yeah, for sure.
Are more willing.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of incentives that we could come up with for it, right? There's plenty, yeah.
Pizza on Fridays, I don't know.
Raising his stock at being able to train master sommeliers, getting them into his bringing them into the company he works for. There's all kinds of reasons. Again, this is why I was like, why would they allow this situation to occur? This should be a recusing situation.
I just have, because again, in my opinion, in my thought process, mentoring is free. Are you paying a mentor?
Not usually, no.
Right. So there's not like, ooh, I got 4 people to pass, so now pay me more money.
Who knows what? We don't know.
Who knows? Yep.
Part of it. That could have been part of it. He, just like a bonus. Who knows? I don't know. He's such a nice guy. I don't know. It's just weird.
See, there's the thing though, being a nice guy and making one dumb decision doesn't make him not a nice guy.
True. Yeah. Very true. That's very true.
It's a bad decision to do something in one moment of his, I don't know how old he is, whatever his life is. I'm sure we can all think back, and that will lead into next month's episode. Embarrassing moments. We've all done something that we probably regret at some point in our lives, and that doesn't mean that you're not a good person anymore. And you know him. That doesn't mean he's a bad person. It just means he made a bad mistake. You know, he didn't think something all the way through. That's, you know, that's how I see it anyway. I try not to hold one stupid decision against a person's entire life. But
unfortunately, that mistake has now touched how many other lives, and it's just kind of
right.
gotten a little crazy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are a little bit over. So are we ready for our riddle?
Uh-oh.
So I'm not even going to tell you my whole backstory of how I came up with this riddle, but here's the riddle. Okay. All right. Two people planned to elope. They agreed to meet at the tree where they picnicked on their first date. The day they were to meet, one of them realized they couldn't go through with it because they loved someone else. The second arrived at the tree, excited to start their new lives together, but only found a fruit. This fruit told them all they needed to know, that their other would not show up. What is the fruit?
Passion.
An apple?
Yeah. It's a long riddle. I apologize for that. Okay. The whole, I'll let you know it's all in the first sentence. Two people plan to elope. They agree to meet at the tree where they picnicked for their first date. The day they were to meet, one of them realized they couldn't go through with it as they truly loved someone else. The second arrived at the tree, excited to start their lives, but only found a fruit. The fruit told them all they needed to know. The other wasn't showing up. What is the fruit?
Michael's got it.
What is it, Michael?
Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe!
Oh my God. So are you coming up with these yourself?
No.
He sent me a clue earlier.
Yeah. No, I looked them up, and under I love the We Like Drinking podcast. Jeff always tries to find something that relates to the guest or to the topic or whatever. So I always try to find something that relates to it. So I was looking up cheating, but the only thing that came up was like sexual cheating. And they were really bad. They were like I can't say these things, you know. And so I was hunting, and actually the girl who shares the office with me, I had a different riddle which I now will use next week. She was like, "Oh, I heard a riddle that deals with spouses cheating." So I kind of reworded it a little. That wasn't spouses cheating, but kind of whatever. So she gave it to me. I don't know where she heard it, but no, I Google. Google is my word. Anyway, so thank you very much for joining. And it was I think it was an interesting topic, and I think we discussed quite a bit of intriguing concepts. But we are at the time to wrap up. So you get like 1 minute to tell us what's going on with your life. Tell people how they can follow you on social media, or whatever you want to tell them. Whatever. Tell them to F off. I don't know. Whatever. But we'll go middle out this time. So Michael, you are first.
Not much happening here. I'm heading up to Napa, Sonoma next week and the week after for various meetings and wine with winemakers and owners of various companies, and that's about it. I'll be on the road here for the next 2 weeks probably.
Awesome. And how can people find you?
California Wines and Wineries, one word. HTTPS, California Wines and Wineries.
All right. Awesome. Nicole.
Well, I'm kind of winding down. I just got back from two rounds of quite a bit of travel. I was spending time in Italy, and then I just got back from co-work, which was, both of them were fantastic. So I will looking forward to being at home a bit now. And you can find me on Instagram at Nibbling Gypsy and the Somm Stable.
All right. And Tina.
Wine Studio is going on the road to SommCon in San Diego in November.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be on my first panel about San Diego wine. So I'm really excited about that. Yes, so that's going to be neat.
Awesome. And yeah, as my own, selfish thing, is there going to be another Wine Studio meetup soon? Because I miss it.
Aw, I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, it's just been crazy, absolutely crazy. But if you have any I don't know, just any place you want to go, let us know. Let me know.
Okay, awesome. It was a great time.
It was
fun. And Jeff.
Hey, everybody, follow the We Like Drinking show on Instagram and Twitter at We Like Drinking on what did I say? Instagram and Facebook at We Like Drinking, on Twitter at We Like Drinking 1. That's the number 1. And if you're on Facebook, I suggest seeking out our tavern, welikedrinking.com/tavern, or just search for We Like Drinking the Tavern on Facebook. We have a lot of fun in that private group. Subscribe to the show, We Like Drinking. We're coming up on our 200th episode, if you can believe that. Next week should be a doozy. We have Jason Stubblefield and Chris Kern coming on the show from the One Bourbon, One Shard, or One Beer podcast. It should be an absolute disaster. So please check us out.
That is going to be a shipwreck, man.
It's going to be a big shipwreck.
And I'm Lori, and you can find me all over social media at Dracaena Wines. And we just released our Cab Franc, our 2016 Cab Franc, and very excited because we just submitted to this year's San Francisco Chronicle. So hoping to get back-to-back double golds. Ooh, so scary. But we will see how we do. We're very excited about the vintage. It really is amazing. And we just brought in our 2018 fruit, which was absolutely incredible. And if you head over to Instagram, you can see Vegas, our winery dog, absolutely approving and loving our fruit, of which I got harassed by a lot of Weimaraner people that dogs should not eat grapes. And had to throw out a little bit of a scientist person to them. But yeah, we're so anyway, next month we will now officially go back to what it was going to be this month before this topic. And it will be our embarrassing wine moments. And it will be November 15th. So hope you all can join. And thank you very much for giving us your ideas tonight.
Thanks, Lori.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.